Hello, friends. Welcome to New Gameplay Today. I am your host, Alex Stadnik, and that was a shaman I just blew away. Welcome.
You really got him, Alex.
I hate these guys already, so I was happy to do that. Joining me, you heard it here correct, the dulcet tones of Matt Miller. Hello, sir.
Hey, how you doing?
Oh, I'm so good because we are playing Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut, and just it's beautiful. If anyone forgot, this game is absolutely beautiful.
It was amazing on PS4. It's even more amazing looking on PlayStation 5.
Correct. So we are showing off Iki Island, which is the new expansion through the Director's Cut, which, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Miller, is included with on PS4 as well as PS5, correct?
Yeah, that's my understanding as well. There's some other, I would say, minor and not so minor additions that are coming with the Director's Cut for people who are fans. But I think the big thing here is we're getting this big new area, Iki Island, that you get to explore. Whole new story, sequence, thing, many hours of new content, several different new side activities. It is robust, I would say. To
say the least. And speaking of that, today's video, I know you're thinking to yourself, viewers, new gameplay today. We've already said this is an old game, but we're going to show off a lot of the new additions and side activities that you can find. And don't worry about spoilers. It's the first 2 hours of the game is from my capture, so I wouldn't be too actively worried about that. So I guess kicking things off here, what have you thought of your experience so far?
I mean, I've been really impressed with what I've seen so far of this new content. It still feels very much like it is part of the existing Ghost of Tsushima game, but they do a good job of helping it feel independent. It's a whole different island, and so you kind of go there and have it and start to because nobody knows you there, you're having to regrow your legend there, and so that progression system sort of starts back over in that space. And the story that they're telling is a really neat one. It's all about it's thematically, it's very much about the main character confronting their past. And they wrap that together in a really interesting gameplay dynamic that carries its way through the whole experience of the expansion.
For sure. I think, as video gamers out there, we're kind of aware that sometimes DLC can feel very patchwork, and I feel like in the first couple of hours they make sure that it feels one in this story, which I'm really appreciative of so far. But for right now, we're showing off a new enemy type called the Shaman, which, like I said in the beginning, are very annoying.
They really are.
Which they're effective.
Kind of way.
Yeah, they're effective. They allow, as you can see on the screen, they allow the enemies to attack relentlessly. They keep bringing people in, and you have to kill these guys. I mean, it's a familiar enemy type, but one that I feel like fits very well in Ghost and heightens that combat to the levels that we know, and even more so. It definitely took me, as you can see here, this was one of my first encounters replaying this, and I was like, wait, how do I play this again? So I know I'm not playing the best ever. I know. So
my little pro tip actually is, like, before you dive into this Iki Island stuff, if you're coming back to the game after being away, as I had been for many months, go take some time to wander around the core island first. Maybe if you had some side activities you didn't do, and go do those, right? Or go do a couple of them to refamiliarize yourself with the stances and with all that kind of stuff. Because once you're thrown in against these shamans and you get over to Iki Island, it's no cakewalk.
No.
The Iki Island expansion stuff is built to be for somebody who's like kind of mastered the game and the combat and all that kind of stuff.
And I believe, if I'm remembering right, they tell you that before you get on the boat, which is, we have just got off the boat to Iki Island here in this scene, but it says, like, they're not pulling punches. You have to come correct here. And but I will say, if you've already played it and beat this, it wasn't something where it was like a similar experience like Doom Eternal for me, where I tried the DLC in Doom Eternal. I was like, I'm a good first-person shooter player. This is too much for me. Whereas this, I felt at home because I've beaten the game,
Yeah, totally. It just takes a little while to refamiliarize yourself. there are a number of different systems, especially in those combat stances and all the tools that you have, that you're going to want to remember how to use, right? They really want you to know that stuff as you go in, and the enemies that you fight are going to take advantage of you not knowing it.
Correct.
If they can, including doing things like having individual enemies up what weapons they're using.
Yeah.
Which is, forces you to change your stance even as you're fighting one individual. The shaman thing, you're always playing that balancing act of, do I go take out the shaman right away, who's usually sort of out in the back, or do I kind of try to do some damage first elsewhere? There's lots of challenges there.
Also, Mr. Miller, I love this. I absolutely love what we're about to show here. Speaking of combat, they've upgraded your horse a little bit, let's say.
Yeah, there's a really cool new mechanic that you've got going on here where you're actually the horse is much more integrated into combat, but in a way that has a cost to your resolve, right? You do this whole horse charge thing, and it drains your resolve over time, so you can't just endlessly charge through your enemies.
Correct.
But you can do a lot of damage, right? Like especially if there's a big group of enemies that are all together and they're all outside in an open space. That is the time to call your trusty steed and, charge into battle.
It's very satisfying because when you pair that with the haptics and HD rumble on the controller, oh, it feels good, baby. It feels so good to charge through people. And that's actually something I wanted to ask you, Miller, because us playing it on PS5, they've added that controller support for the DualSense that obviously wasn't there for the PS4. Have you liked it? Have you thought it's too little, too much?
It doesn't feel intrusive. I think they put a lot of sound into the DualSense controller speakers. Like they're actively trying to use that in interesting ways, and there's definitely a good bit of sort of haptic feedback, vibration kind of stuff that they've worked in. But like I said, doesn't disrupt things for me in any way.
For sure. Yeah, and I'm a sucker for the haptics and whatnot, so I'm really enjoying it. So if you like that on the DualSense, you'll be at home here. This is very interesting to me. Obviously, everything has been, but they're doing, without getting into spoilers, we'll kind of talk over what's happening. They are doing some memory sequences in this that kind of remind me of Arkham games a little bit. We won't get into necessarily why these are happening, but or how but there are some interesting, as Miller said earlier, you're really going through Jin's past and kind of adding to that backstory in interesting ways, and they're doing it in a very trippy, think of the Scarecrow sequences in Arkham type of thing.
Yeah, I think the big takeaway for me is how smartly they've approached making this be a sort of an extended epilogue for this character's adventure and their early life and the things we've learned about them from the core campaign. There are, if you think about it and you were to kind of go through it, there are some lingering questions there, particularly related to his family and his early life. You would want to know about Jin, and the Iki Island stuff really helps to pull all that stuff together, right? And it also speaks to the nature of like Jin's a guy who's lived a pretty rough life, right? He's had a lot of difficult things happen to him, and when forced to confront that and on a sort of conceptual level, that's pretty nightmarish. And so that manifests in some of the things that they do in the game, and obviously we won't talk about exactly how that works, but it's cool, and it's especially cool the way that it comes back through the whole expansion. As you're playing through the Iki Island stuff, there are context sensitive ways that you're continually circling back to having to confront Jin's past. And I really like the way that they approach that.
That's exciting to me because like I said, I'm only about 2 hours in, and it's rare for me to be super jacked on a DLC storyline, but this sounds like it's hitting exactly what I wanted to, and what I loved about that first game, and just Jin's overall struggle with balancing his samurai origins with the not unlawful, but the dishonorable aspects of what he has to do. So here we're at a I'm taking out Shaman here and whatnot, but it's also at a new thing called a cat sanctuary.
Yeah.
Which, oh baby, I had to include the kitties, right? You got to do it.
Well, there's several different animals, right? You find these sanctuaries for different animals, but I love this new mechanic that they've put in. It's really simple. It's not unlike what the haiku thing was, which, by the way, I have encountered at least one new haiku spot on Iki Island, but it's like that in that it's a very simple thing. So I don't want to overplay how great it is.
Yeah.
But check out what happens here, right? You're actually playing your flute kind of in real time. To sort of Pied Piper-esque enchant
Yep.
the animals of the island. So you have these like cute animals like the cat here, and if you play a nice little flute melody by tilting your controller up and down and staying within the structure,
Yep.
then it makes him happy.
Yeah.
He comes over and you give him a little treat. And I mean, what's wrong with that? Nobody can complain about nothing is wrong with that. Look at that.
Exactly. It's so pure and I love it. So but flashing back to impurity, here's another memory sequence where Jin's going over his past. I guess I kind of want to go back to the cat now, but the editor just had to go away from it. There's just I think last year, with the launch of the PS5 and Last of Us 2 being my game of the year and really occupying a lot of my mind space, I think, not that I dismissed Ghost, right? Because it's still in my top 10 of last year, but I almost forgot a little bit how much I loved this experience. And I think this DLC is reminding me yet again, like, what a special game Sucker Punch has put out. And like, you can tell that they put a lot of effort and care into this DLC even from the start, which I'm very appreciative of. So here we're looking at another new mini game, kind of like the bamboo cutting, right? It's the archery challenge, which last time I checked with you, Miller, neither of us had gotten gold in this yet.
They're hard. It's real hard to get gold. You have to use you're improving your charm of concentration, right? By doing those archery challenges, and it's almost necessary that you have that charm in use, and you're taking advantage of it. I think in order to get the gold. Like I'm not sure it's even possible to aim fast enough, and get to the different things that you need to do.
Miller and I are expert archery people in real life. Yeah, so believe us when we say it is damn near impossible at the start. So, but the last sequence here, just wanted to show off, just once again how beautiful this game is. You're working with a new ally here, but just another moment to go, gee willikers, this is beautiful. So any parting thoughts, Mr. Miller?
No, I mean, Ghost was my personal game of the year last year, and so this has just been delightful for me to be able to get back to the game and have so much new content here. There are many hours of new content on Iki Island to explore, and I love the way that the dark themes of grief and confronting your past and all those sorts of things that were part of the core game, they are still here, and they're balanced by the beauty of the game, right? The beauty of the land and of the experience and of the sound, the music, all that sort of stuff keeps it from being overwhelming. It keeps it from being just morose and sad and depressing because you're moving through this like remarkable play space. And yet the themes that you're dealing with are often about people who are really confronting awful things related to war and loss. So I think it is a perfect follow through, as far as I'm concerned, of what I've played so far. A perfect follow through for what the core game was. It adds to it in meaningful ways, and but it's not like a whole new game, right? It still feels in keeping with what they've done in the core game, but they add enough stuff that you're going to feel like this is fresh and fun and compelling.
Yeah, I can't wait. And then viewers, you won't have to wait very long because this should be, as of this recording, I believe this is out tomorrow for PlayStation 4 and PS5 owners, correct?
That's the plan, yep.
Alrighty. Well, Mr. Miller, thank you as always for your time. Viewers, thank you so much for watching. As always, be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and we will see you next time. Bye.